Welcome back, survivors. I'm the SurvivalVis, and we return to Northern Lights, where we're here for our more review and feedback episode. Just kind of give an overview of everything I've had, experienced my time playing a bit, review a bit of the mechanics, the systems, how the game plays a little bit, performance, a few things like that. The reason why I didn't do more recordings for the channel is because trying to capture the software and play the game, we kind of saw how that affected the performance, but just playing the game on its own, it ran so much better, and I think it is again. My PC, it does meet the minimum, and it does get close to the recommended specs, but still, trying to record as well with it definitely took an impact to a performance, so for the general player who's probably not going to be recording footage or that, performance is much better than what you saw in the videos I did. I'm trying to think of what else. Is there anything else graphic and performance-wise? I don't think so. It performed pretty well. I didn't have any crashes, There are some, little loading freezes, I guess, when I went between regions almost. But other than that, I didn't have any crashes, freezes, hard walks, anything like that. So the game performed pretty well through that. So I think that's really all I have to talk about performance. I'm actually going to go into my latest game, because as you can see, I got a bit more playtime in here since, the last recordings I had done. And there's quite a bit I uncovered that I'm surprised I didn't encounter sooner, and I kind of think it's something where it might be good to make a little tutorial scenario to start with to kind of clue you in that these things, and, well, there are certain things in the world to go and see that you don't even realize are a thing. Kind of like how the binoculars all of a sudden came out of nowhere for me. I had one of those with one of the systems in the game that I've actually praised in videos. So we'll just let it load in and then I'll get right to that. The inventory system I do want to talk about because I feel like you have to go all one way or the other. You can't do this split system that they sort of have done. And what I mean by that is when you go into your inventory in the backpack, it goes off of a grid system. And then when you have, tools, it has a slot system, and the back is a slot system. So, I'm loaded up here. Let me just open the map quickly. So, as you can see, we are quite a ways from where I was, because we were up around the farms and the wood factory. I came all the way down this way for a bit, so I've got some travel in, and when I mean, inventory-wise, see, this is your slot system of 1, 2, 3, 4 for the tools, 4 slots for, the sticks and that. When we go into the actual inventory, you have the grid system. I think you'll have to go either one way fully or the other. Either go full grid system or go full slot system. Because, let me see. Prime example here is storage. This is your slot system, but there's only one slot that can hold one item. I'd say either take the grid system for the backpack, copy it to the storage, or take the storage system of slots and take it to the backpack. You have to do one or the other, because both kind of feels like a disconnect. Maybe I'll just do a quick pause so we don't hear him so much. The reason I say this is because there's a lot of parts in the world where, you go and you hit containers, and they hold, one item. An entire fridge can only hold one thing. Even the storage chest you can make only can store 3 items at a time. You might argue, well, you could store multiple of that one item. Yes, but you still, at its bare minimum, can only hold 3 items. That's not really a lot for when you consider what you have to put into them. So I think it's something with storage. Either pick one way or the other and go full with it. Don't do this half back and forth, because it doesn't really make much sense there. The element I do want to praise that I have is the unknown plants. I didn't realize you actually had these, but there are research books out in the world you can find that will give you what the name of the plant is. I found a book that actually mentioned what willow is, and that's anti-inflammatory behavior. It didn't give me the infusion with it, so I think that's something I'd like to see maybe added as well, is when you research, maybe each book only contains information on one plant, but contains all the information on that plant. And I would say have multiples of the same book out in the world. So, this is where I kind of thought, well, maybe you should have almost a tutorial island or tutorial in a way to start, where it's you discover, okay, there are these books that are out there, you have binoculars that exist. I think one of the big things is when we go to just using the journal, we don't have a section where it just has general tips and information. So you don't actually know what's fully in the game until you might accidentally or somehow stumble upon it. That's what happened for us when we discovered the binoculars for spotting. I'm trying to think of what else. There's nothing really there. I talked about that. At first, I was a little unsure of how they would implement the unknown stuff, because on the one hand, I really like that you don't know what the plants are, names, or their effects, but it kind of felt really punishing that the only way you might know is by trying them. Knowing now that there are actually, like, skill books in the world that you can go and find and research these actually makes this a lot better of a system, and there's a good incentive to explore. It's just, again, at the start, you don't know these are out there. It might just be random luck you'll find one all of a sudden. Once you do find one, it's, oh yeah, that's actually pretty good to go for. Yeah, I do wish I could shut the door, but this place has like a solid door I can't do anything with. Oh, system malfunction. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, anyway, where was I? Like, going into here, so yeah. Now that I know there are skill books in the world, that's incentive to go and explore and try to find them, and I think that really touched on one of my issues I had with this. So, it was already solved in-game, I do like it, I just think I would make the books a little more common in the world, but only have them give you one plant at a time. So you still have a total of, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12... So you have 15 plants to, like, discover, and if you have duplicate books in the world, it can take you a long time to find them all. So I think that might be a good way to balance out this, like, floor identification system for you. When it comes to the afflictions, the only thing I think I could have seen a little bit more were, like, anti-inflammatory thing. That I never really came across much of. Food poisoning, we had found antibiotics in the charcoal for it. Fever, I don't know... Yeah, the antipyretic, I didn't really find anything for that. Infection, we did find the antibiotics. See, I'm surprised how many inflictions there actually are, and I have not had, like, majority of them. So I'm not sure what the others could be. The inflictions, I think, is done pretty well. It might just be that there might be a lack of certain items, because it's felt like there was a little bit limited in the pool that I was finding for all the distance I've traveled. Like, I've only ever found antibiotics and painkillers. I don't think I've found an antipyretic, anti-inflammatory, all the distance I've covered. So that might be something I don't know if they do exist, and I just don't know and didn't get lucky, or they're still yet to be put in, but maybe it's something come in the future. Once that's put in, I think that'd be a bit better there. We go to skills. I think I'm mostly fine for all the skills. I do have a little issue with the crafting, though, is because it's by, like, a skill level thing, you might hit a point where eventually you're just, like, wasting materials to make stuff, trying to get the next unlock. I think it might be better to almost make it sort of like a tier craft system, where it's like when you make the stick knife, that then unlocks the stone knife, unlocks the bone knife. And then as you, like, just kind of craft along those tech trees in a way, they open up the further ones down the road. I think they could also implement that when it comes to, again, the spears would be one, arrow and bow would be one. I think it'd be good to try to have it so you can make, like, some cloth items. Like, just simple cloth hand wraps or cloth scarf or something like that, or cloth mask or face covering. Something like that, because I think one big thing right now is there aren't a lot of clothing items. I haven't really come across a lot in the world, and a lot of them just seem to be like repeats of what we already had on. I think because of the lack of clothing, that's another reason why it doesn't feel like a super incentive to go and explore. Because you're not really getting new gear, you're not feeling you're getting warmer stuff. And also, when you hunt animals, I don't know if the pelts have a use right now. That's one thing, again, I haven't been able to play enough to see all the blueprint levels, so I don't know if there actually are things you can make with the pelts or that, but it's another one the skill level can kind of hold you back because you have to craft so much other stuff to then just try unlocking that. So that might be something there, is to change this more into, like, tech trees, or at least have it more as you're initially unlocking, where it's like, you made the stick knife, okay, now you unlock the stone knife. You made the cloth hand wraps, now you can make, say, like, the rabbit pelt hand wraps or something. A way like that, just kind of, like, craft yourself along and get going where it is. Or get yourself a little bit more, like, progressing along, and then there's more incentive to, okay, I'll hunt this for the pelt and meat and the bones and stuff like that. I think that covers all the tool use in that. I would also say I think I'd like it more that, like, if I have a bone knife, I could actually store that in the miscellaneous part of my pack here, because you can't actually do that right now. If you have... Oh, come on, drop. Drop. There we go. That's another thing, too, I'll talk about in just a moment, but if I want to, like, move the bone knife, I can only drop it out of my inventory or keep it on my number 3 slot. I can't actually store it in my pack and have something else in that slot. That's an issue where I do think it would help to be able to just store knife or store small tools away and switch out as you need. Things like, say, the bow, the spear, they shouldn't be able to fit in the pack because, let's face it, they're fairly big things. But knife, hatchet, stuff like that, I think you could or should be able to store away and then just switch out more. When it comes to the inventory, I do think there could be a little bit better detection into, like, how you move stuff around. It seems like it's gotten a little bit better with the last update, but there's still a little bit of issue where, like, certain items don't always register to where you think they're going to sit. Like, these are a stack of 2, but it can take some time trying to get them to just, like, fit where you want them to be placed. Again, it's improved with the last update, so it's not quite like how it was the previous times we've tried, but you can see right now, it can be a little iffy how it wants to detect stuff. When we get back to crafting here, the tools that I'm all fine with the cost, that's good. It's... Okay, so I'm just going to load up again because of the freezing going on. When we get into, like, crafting, though, of, like, the campfire, or the small fire, the campfire, and a little bit of the shelter stuff, I feel like they take more resources than they should. Like, just to make the smallest fire takes 14 sticks. I think that should be cut down to maybe 6 to 8-ish, around that. Because I don't really think you should need that many sticks to make one small little fire. Like, it's 14 for that, 12 and 12 for the campfire. I haven't even unlocked the other fire, I'm not sure how I get that. Probably have to make this, then the other one will. That's why there is some tech advancement like that in the game, but not for everything. So, it's kind of hard to say what some things are. But yeah, I think 14 sticks for small fire is a bit too much. I would drop that in half, 7 or 8 I think would be better. Probably same with the campfire here, I'd probably drop those requirements as well. And I think that's there. Now, the traps I think are an interesting idea, but it might also come again, do you want to be spending so many resources on these? Because just for the snare trap, you need 8 lengths of rope. It looks a lot better, like the tacklefish trap. These costs feel much more appropriate than the cost for this here. Just trying to think of how many that would be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess it technically would be 6-ish, but I don't think you need the 8 rope like it calls for. So the traps are an interesting idea. I'm glad to see do exist in the game and that. Yeah, I don't know if I'd actually be able to, like, see what the next one is, but yeah, traps, for the most part, good to see them. It's nice to have. I do think maybe the cost requirement for the snare is a little high. Base building is a little bit of a weird one for the game, because when you think about where you want to have base building in the game, it's generally when you don't have shelters or stuff provided for you. So, because there are, like, a lot of landmarks and stuff in Northern Lights, I've never found a real need to make anything like this, except for the stick bed. I think there almost needs to be something that, like, has an incentive of you want to make a base here because you can get something more reliably here, or it's in connection to something else. It might be more just co-op, you'll start moving around, building that out, but again, the cost can be a little high. I can understand for this tent shelter there, that's pretty good. The stick bed, 20 still feels like a bit of much, but it's kind of a bit more offset because, well, this is your save point. This is kind of just place it anywhere in the world, you have that. It's things like the roof shelter here where it's like 2 logs, 11, 15, 12. It really feels like you need a lot of stuff to put these together. And it's hard to say if it will be super worth it. It is nice, though, to have that, as well as things like the rock holder and the log holder. And, again, it's a little weird about how things are, like, combined in a way. Like, you only need 4 and 4 to make a rope holder, and 4 and 4 to make the stick holder. But then for, like, the rock holder, it's 12 and 4. Like, the costs are a little all over the place, and the storage box, 16, 4, and 6 for only 3 slots. That's one of the big things where I have to say, the inventory system of picking just one over the other will definitely be what you want. I think that brings it to the end of what I want to talk about the journal thing there. I think I addressed all the points I really came across for that. When it comes to the map, the only thing I might recommend is making the map clippings actual, like, full map instead of the little clipping, but have it still only reveal, like, these little portions of the map, or the full area. Because, like, as I was going through for the farmstead and the wood factory, they're like these little paper cutouts that can be very hard to see and, like, distinguish as a thing. And it makes you really double over trying to look everywhere. Like, is it somewhere else? Is it here? Is it there? It can really make you just kind of go back on yourself over and over again trying to figure stuff out. So I think just the map clippings, increase their model to just a full map, but have it only give you that little portion again. I think that's a great way to incentivize. See, I can't remember if it actually it gave me all these question marks, or they were things I found on my own. I think it created the question marks when I found the map piece. So I think that's a good thing, is when you find a map piece of an area, it does give you a bunch of question marks that are incentive of, ooh, there's some stuff here, let's go for those. The big thing that really hit me, though, was that it feels like the game could use a little bit more incentive to get you to go and explore. And I think it's mostly because you don't understand what all there is to be found. Like, I didn't realize there were the skill books. Clothing right now, it is fairly limited, but I think if you both have some more poor clothing to start with, and there's good clothing out there to find, that's your encouragement to go and find, and you get stuff like that. There is the main quests and quests you can kind of come across, like this is a weather station that kind of finding out what's going on here, what happened. So there's little things like that to help for it, expand story a little bit and things like that. Right now, what Northern Lights really reminds me of is The Long Dark in its early access, where it just had the survival mode, where you kind of have to make the goals for yourself in order to survive and go out and stuff like that. I think, again, it's basically just trying to give a little bit more in the world to make you encouraged to go and explore. I think having even small stuff like, I know The Long Dark uses a sewing kit, but even if you have like needle and thread, that gives you a reason to go out to try to grab to make either upgrades for your inventory or better clothing for yourself. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Food and water have been mostly good. There is a little weird thing when it comes to like your general condition. Like, I found condition does improve a little bit as you sleep, as long as you don't have like an affliction on you, but I found it's actually like eating food and drinking suddenly shoots that up. I don't know if it's just like a bug and it's meant to only fill up your stomach and your water and not so much your health or general condition, but it kind of seems like it goes that way. Insanity, I don't entirely know if I've encountered all it does to you, or it was just the small little voices in your head. I feel like that's a tricky mechanic, a welcome one to be sure, because I do like that a survival game is tackling the sanity aspect of trying to survive. But it's kind of trying to figure out what does it exactly do for or against you. So one of my ideas I came up with for insanity is, if you have good sanity, it reduces the amount of crafting materials you need to make something. Whereas if you have insanity or low sanity, you don't have as cohesive of thought, so you actually need more materials to make something up. That kind of rewards you, so that way you want to try to keep sane in order to avoid that. And also, I guess I don't mind the voices so much talking to you, but they do maybe need to be a little bit more spaced out or have different levels of insanity to make them more common as it goes along. Again, it's a tricky system to work with because it's something you don't want to severely punish the player for if they don't have means of really interacting with that and improving it, but you also want to have a feasible and physical outcome on the game so that way you know, or gameplay, so that way it feels like it's something you want to avoid or address or you have to keep on top of. I don't know the best way of doing it at this point, but I'm glad to see it is at least something they're trying to figure out with, and it is in the game. I tried, again, looking up on the Steam discussions to see what Insanity Ult does. I don't know if it is just the voices or it's more. I didn't encounter too much, but yeah. That's just my suggestions for it, to give it some, impact to gameplay. And other than that, I don't really think I have anything else to say or go over. The latest update that dropped helped for performance and a few little things in-game. I don't think there were the floating items anymore. I think the last update did fix that, because since playing, I haven't run into, any items floating around or just hovering in space or that when I'm dropping them out of my inventory. I do think it is mostly just about trying to get a bit more of the story made out, polish up some things. The animal models and the AI, I should talk about that. The animal AI is a little dumb at the moment, but that's something that I think could be just improved with a bit of time. We're increasing, their awareness and their detection range for when the player's nearby. The models all look good, I think, except for the wolf. I haven't been too close to the bear, but I remember the wolf model looked a little weird with how it was done in our one episode, so that might just be one model to look at possibly redoing or adjusting a bit so it doesn't look quite as strange as it does. But the fox, the rabbit, the birds, the deers, the boars, everything's been looking pretty fine aside from that. Again, if the pelts get, crafting options, I think it's more incentive for you to go out, try to hunt. Maybe even have it so certain animals are only in certain portions of the map, sort of like some of these plants are. So you want to make yourself a moose skin something. You know that moose can only be found in certain areas, so you have to go find them. Or that might be something you could actually use hunting lodges or hunting camps for, is they have little map pieces that kind of show animal range, or you find one that is a moose territory and it has a circle on the map for an area you might find them. It really is, I think, just that the game could use a bit more polish, some more mechanics, or maybe not too many more mechanics, but more just some tweaks to its mechanics. Just kind of refine and polish it up from what it is. Because right now, it's a pretty nice, approachable survival game. It's not too complicated, so that way it feels like you're overloaded trying to learn a bunch of stuff. But it kind of is a nice step into the survival genre without feeling like you're going to be too punished, or it's accessible. It's more accessible than some other survival games are, where you might really not know what's going on and you're dropping to the deep end. I do think a little, almost tutorial island, or almost training class or something would help to just get you through most of the basics, at you with little pop-ups like the binoculars are a thing you have. There are skill books in the world, a few other things like that, and then in the journal also include them as a little tooltip section or something. Maybe down at the bottom there's a tab or something where you can just go there, look up, and all the hints you've seen so far you can go back and read again. Checking your statuses with the little watch I think is just fine. It gives you the wind chill temperature. I actually think I prefer that method than the Long Darks method, where you have to go into a menu to see what it is. Here, it's just pull it out, and you get a quick check, and it's down and immersive. So yeah, I think Northern Lights, it has a lot of good basics and foundations laid. The foundation is there, it's all about how it kind of gets a little bit more polished and refined, and then built up and expanded on. So I think that brings me about everything I wanted to say in regards to it. I'm just going to head back to the main menu, and I think we're going to wrap the video up here. I'd keep an eye on Northern Lights because, again, the foundations are there, it's just how it's built up from there. I want to thank MadGoat Studios very much for giving me the opportunity to try Northern Lights out and give them a chance to give my feedback, experience, stuff like that to it. I am looking forward to see how it keeps updating and developing. It did go pretty quiet after, I think it was its initial early access release or so, but that was because they wanted to do an overhaul, and I think it has paid off for what it's given them as a new base to go from. There's just some expanding to do, some tweaking, some adjustments, some additions, but overall, it's at a good base for an early access game in my opinion, and it's just about seeing where it goes forward from here. So thank you again to MadGoat Studios, and to all of you guys watching and following along with the series. If you have enjoyed this little sneak peek of the game, be sure to give us a like, and if you have any comments, tips, tricks, or feedback on Northern Lights as well, please be sure to leave it all in the comments right down below. Until I do catch you in the next series or episode, survivors, please remember, as always, to take care and stay alive.